So today we're going to learn about Blackmagic, the cameras, not actual Blackmagic. Blackmagic is relatively new to making camera products, but has put out a ton of amazing products over the years. I picked up the original Blackmagic 4K cinema camera with some friends and produced some of my best work with it in college. Over the recent years, Blackmagic has gone away with the original camera body that it had in favor of the Pocket cinema camera body. Let's be honest though, this isn't fitting in anyone's pocket. They also make the Blackmagic Ursa series, which are great cameras, but not necessarily entry level. If you watch my channel for a while now, first of all, hi, welcome back. Second of all, you know that I'm in love with cinema cameras. I swear, it's not a problem. And the Blackmagic Pocket cinema camera, while it may have its quirks and maybe a mouthful to say, it's another camera that's close to my heart. Seriously, why did they make the name so long? The question is it the right match for you? The reality is, while it's a really great entry-level cinema camera, it might not get along with everyone that uses it. So the current models of the Pocket 6K are the G2 and the Pro. Both relatively similar cameras, just you get slightly more with the Pro. Both come in at mirrorless camera prices, which is great because cinema cameras tend to be on the expensive side. For now, I'm specifically going to go over the G2, and I'll explain what makes the Pro different later. It's a Super 35 sensor with an EF mount, so you don't have to buy any proprietary lenses for this. If you already have EF lenses in your kit, you can seamlessly transition to this camera. And unlike the previous models of this camera, the Blackmagic 6K cameras can now support autofocus, something you'd think they'd have figured out earlier. We've got two recording formats, first being 10-bit Apple ProRes and then 12-bit RAW. For the RAW, as you might have guessed, you can shoot up to 6K and a number of lower res formats too, all up to 60 frames per second. For ProRes, you can shoot at all different levels of ProRes, but only up to 4K, and then 120 frames per second in HD. And that's the main draw with this camera. Blackmagic was the first camera company to offer RAW video recording in an entry-level camera. And when using this camera, that's really the best way to go. And the best part about this is you have multiple compression settings in order to save space on data if you need to. Sure, there might be a small drop in quality, but it's not noticeable for most non-filmmakers. And then the ProRes is actually good too. When I had the Blackmagic, I actually used the ProRes more than I did the RAW. And it was also a time where the RAW was not as easy to work with in most editing programs. But now all major editing programs can support the RAW with the Blackmagic RAW plugin installed. And Davinci Resolve, the ever-growing editing platform, takes this footage in natively, as it should, because it's made by the same company as the camera. Oh, also, I should mention a huge perk of getting one of these cameras is that you get the full version of Davinci Resolve Studio for free. This is a brilliant move by Blackmagic. A huge draw to Blackmagic cameras is that the picture is just so good. It is undeniably good, and the RAW is just beautiful. It produces such rich, appealing colors, and with the smooth integration in Davinci, you've got a seamless color correction process to bring your footage to even higher levels as well. Now, if you're someone who's not as experienced in color correction and color grading, first of all, please learn it. Second of all, this may be a challenging camera for you, but it is an essential tool to learn, and this camera presents a good opportunity to learn. This is a camera company that knows the importance of color correction, and it shows through its amazing footage. Now, in terms of the size and shape, it's a relatively small camera similar to the size of a mirrorless camera. It's a little oddly shaped, and like I said before, definitely can't fit in anyone's pocket, but it boasts a large tilting screen on the back. This is where all the tools and settings are done for the camera on the screen. It doesn't come with a viewfinder, but you can get one as an accessory for an additional purchase. More on that later. But the screen is very good and gives you a much larger preview of your footage than other cameras in its size. The downside is depending on how much sunlight is out, you can get a pretty bad glare on the screen. But that's where a sun hood or the viewfinder comes in handy. For media, you have a CF card slot, an SD-UHS-2 slot, so those are heavy-duty SD cards, not like the ones you buy at Walmart, and external recording to a solid-state hard drive. And no matter what you're going with, you're going to need a lot of space. This baby eats up a lot of data. I mean, it's great because it's such an uncompressed format, but it does come at a price. I found that recording straight to SSDs is honestly the best way to go, since you can literally edit right off the drives if you want.
What you doing, Maisie? Why are you tugging the tree?
Of course, you may have to purchase an additional rig or accessory to hold the SSD in place while you're filming.
What are you doing? Don't knock over the tree, please.
Now batteries. my favorite. Good news is it's not a proprietary Blackmagic battery that you need to use. It takes the relatively universal Sony L series batteries. The problem is battery life sucks. Like literally, it sucks the life out of these batteries. It's notoriously bad. So you're going to need a lot of batteries or a battery grip or external battery to make this work. Now, you may be noticing a certain trend here. Blackmagic's biggest downfall. They are notorious for needing many additional accessories. These cameras are typically not right out of the box cameras. The footage is beautiful and honestly very stunning, but they are high maintenance. So is it worth it? They come in at a low price point, but don't purchase the camera until you've added every single accessory you're going to need to purchase. That will give you a more accurate representation of how much this camera is going to cost. You'll want to strategize how you're going to get battery life into this camera, how you're going to rig it up properly, what type of data you're going to be using. Consider the type of work that you're doing and the accessories that are going to be necessary for that. There are helpful rigs and cages that can hold extra accessories, such as external batteries or SSDs, but those might be costly or time-consuming to set up. Plus, raw footage takes a lot of power to process. I don't think your 10-year-old MacBook Pro is going to handle it very well. Another downside of this camera is that even though having an EF mount is nice, Canon is no longer making new EF lenses. So eventually, this format's going to be obsolete. There's also no built-in image stabilization. Let's face it, the only reason anyone ever buys this camera is for the beautiful footage. But is that enough? Honestly, for many people, yeah, it is. That's what people see. And this camera constantly delivers at every level. 6K, RAW, ProRes, it just kills it. The color science just hits differently than other cameras. If you figure out your ideal setup, this camera is going to shine. Films, commercials, weddings, YouTube. It works for everything, and it's at a relatively cheap price. For me personally, I really like the camera, but it's not necessarily a camera I need at this moment. I kind of like when I can just take a camera out of the box and start shooting right away. But like I say, I'm me and you're not me. I think this is a tremendous camera to pick up, as long as you're prepared to accessorize appropriately. It may not be the best first-time camera purchase, but with this camera, it's a great opportunity to get super high-quality footage at an entry-level price. So in terms of the Pro versus the G2, they're relatively the same camera, but for $500 more, you get built-in ND filters, and you get a screen that's 50% brighter on the back. Both of these are helpful, but is it worth $500? I personally love built-in ND filters, but you might be able to get like a variable ND filter you can put on your lens, but the brighter screen might cut out your need to get a viewfinder. Do the math, factor in all your accessories, and in the end, see which one is more cost-effective for you. Ultimately, there's no resolution difference. There is one other Pocket camera model, that's the 4K model, but it's really not worth it in my opinion due to its sensor. The only reason I would go for a camera like this is if you already have a decent amount of micro Four Thirds lenses. So yeah, that's Blackmagic. That's how it always has been, and probably how it always will. In conclusion, the Blackmagic Pocket Cinema Camera 4K, that's just such a mouthful. It's a great entry cinema camera that offers the best video resolution at its price point, but it requires a bit of extra money and work to get it going. What are your thoughts on the Blackmagic cameras? Which model have you used? But of course, don't assume because you're shooting in 6K RAW that all your footage is going to be beautiful with no effort. You'll always have to consider your lighting, your cinematography, and storytelling, no matter what camera you use. That's what makes you a good filmmaker. And no matter what camera you buy these days, you'll definitely have the ability to get amazing results.